Jennifer, how are you? I'm good. I can see your lips, but you were on mute.
There, I should be on now. I'm good. How are you this evening?
Good. Happy New Year. I don't think I've seen you since the New Year.
No, Happy New Year to you too.
Hey, how you doing?
Jason,
Hey, how you doing?
Jason, how are you?
Do, doing all right, thanks.
Hello, everybody.
Oh,
Hi there.
Who's on the iPhone?
Hey, it's April.
Hmm?
I'm on my iPhone. It's Kevin.
It's Kevin? Okay. I'm just doing it for roll call more than anything else.
Yep. No worries.
April, Jason, Kevin, no Sissy content.
Hello, everyone.
Hi there.
Hi,
Jason
Jason.
Deb, thanks for joining. I think Mo is on already too.
Yeah, it's like he's connecting to audio right now.
John's trying to get on. Well, let's see. We have John Levingood coming through. Mac is trying, can't get the link to work. There's John.
Audio check.
Sounds
We can
good.
hear you.
Yeah, typically it comes with like a predefined setting with passcodes. I didn't see that on the invite, so that's why I was asking Patty. Thanks.
No problem. Because mine was, oh, mine asked me for it too, which was really odd.
Yeah.
And Mac is having trouble. I'm sending him the info right now. Looking for the presidents.
Happy New Year to all, since I haven't seen you guys in a bit. I don't know when the last date I can say that, but
Good enough. Happy New Year.
To you too.
likewise, John.
Just checking to see if we have quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. I'm gonna put myself on mute and I'm gonna give Mark a call.
Sounds good, Patty.
Do you hear me? Hello?
Sure
can-
can. Hey there.
And Mac, how you doing? Mark is
I'm all
on.
right. Now that I can get it to work, I couldn't get it transferred from my computer to my portable devices. My apologies.
It's okay. You're not the last one in the room, so you're good.
We'll let it
Okay.
pass.
All right. I'll take the rest of the day off then.
Only in about 35 minutes.
And just for my records, is this discussing the company, the budget,
Yes,
or? Okay, is there
Yes.
any other items for the agenda? Is this just that?
just that.
Okay,
Hi, Patty, I'm in. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We all had
Rest
trouble
of the
getting
team.
into that. So, it is-
Patty, I believe the other item on the agenda is the sod
oh,
piece,
do you-
just to go over what we have and updates for the group.
right, did you get any more information on that?
No, just what I sent out to the group, but in case anybody has questions. And then I wanted to talk to you. I have questions about some of what you sent, but I didn't want to go back and forth via email.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so the meeting started at 6:09 p.m., a special board meeting, and Mark, do you want to go ahead and take it, or should we just hand it right to Rebecca?
Yeah, let's just let Rebecca take it.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Patty. What we wanted to discuss today is the proposal from Balanced Asset Solutions, who is the bookkeeping firm that we have been negotiating with to take over the bookkeeping from a professional services perspective. On the line, we also have Zoheb Osmani and we have Mohammed Hussein, who are from BAS. We asked them to join today to answer any pointed questions that you had, specific questions about the audit, and anything else that you're wanting to clarify before we make any motions. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and jump in and just give everyone a quick overview. I did send the board a summary last evening. Hopefully all of you have had a chance to read that. If you have not, I'll walk through it, but there's much more detail included in the actual proposals that were attached. So there's really two things that we wanted to highlight here. So the proposal is including two main areas of focus. The first one is the bookkeeping and accounting services, which we have already discussed as a board and has been in the works for some time. BAS, or Balanced Asset Solutions, started their audit I think at the end of December, and or actually the beginning of December, and provided us their audit findings just before the end of the year. The audit findings highlighted that we did have some issues with GAAP compliance, our account structures, and some of the core data that are in Appfolio are not up to GAAP standards. So as part of the assumption of the bookkeeping services, we would need to do a cleanup. So they have provided a summary or a proposal to do that cleanup, which is the second half of the proposal that was attached. And the annual bookkeeping fees would be $48,000 a year, which would be paid in monthly installments. That does include a 15% discount, and that includes the monthly accounts payables, receivables, reporting, general ledger reconciliations, so on and so forth. And it also includes Appfolio technical support, as well as support for annual events and tax prep for 1099s and sales, quarterly sales tax, or annual returns, those types of things for each year that we wish to use BAS to perform that. The cleanup of the financials really will address the compliance issues that we have with the account structures, which make it really difficult to balance and reconcile, because we have certain accounts that are misclassified or they're duplicated, where we have reserves, as an example, is set as an expense when it's really an asset. Things of that nature. So they will clean that up in Appfolio and make sure that everything is aligned to the classifications that it should really be sitting under. The fee for the cleanup is $48,100. It's a one-time fee, but we've worked with BAS because that is a large number. We've worked with BAS to figure out ways that we could reduce that cost and amortize it over a longer period of time. So they have agreed through negotiation to amortize over a 24-month period. And that's going to require a 2-year contract with BAS, which I assume if they're taking over bookkeeping services, we would want them to do it for more than just 1 year. But they've also provided a credit of $8,880, which is the fee that we've already incurred for the audit, which has not yet been paid. And it also includes a concession. They will help us prepare our 2023 tax filings as a concession as part of that fee. So I will just pause and see first if anyone on the board has any questions, and feel free to ask Zoheb or Mohammed any specific items that you're wanting to know more about.
Yeah, I took a brief look at it, and one of the things I think maybe because previous issues with the financing and stuff like that, is there any during in normal business functions, is there any plan of action and milestones to have those steps completed by? Like, I know you listed out those the items. I reviewed that. Is there like a timeline, like a project timeline to have those completed by, so we're not just shooting from the hips? That's my only thing, I think.
Yeah, BAS has, they've estimated it's going to take 260 hours over a period of 6 to 8 weeks. So it should be completed by the end of February, although the cleanup and compliance alignment as part of the execution. And they would at the same time, and Zoheb, feel free to correct me if I'm misstating anything, but as part of taking over the books, they will be doing the cleanup. And then we will begin working with them to do the day-to-day management as well.
Yeah, is that a strong timeline, or is that a feasible timeline? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like expectations. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no later than the middle of February. So 8 weeks on the high end, 6 weeks if we're able to move quickly. But to Rebecca's point, like, we're aiming for end of February or like middle of March, worst case scenario.
Okay. And this is for the year, sorry, because I'm only on one screen, but this is for 2023 or 2022?
Yes, they did. If you remember, we had been working on the 2022 audit, which is being done by our CPA, and the CPA has not yet closed that out, but they have identified many of the same issues. They haven't issued an opinion or finalized the audit yet. We're working with them to make sure that is completed as soon as possible. But many of the items that they've recommended to us, at least as a preliminary, things that we need to be doing, are very consistent, are almost identical to what BAS has identified. So we know that this is something that we really need.
So are we combining those two fiscal years together for this, or is this separate?
No, BAS did their own audit to take over the books. They wanted to make sure, they wanted a level of comfort. So BAS did an audit for 2023 numbers before taking over the bookkeeping services.
So your email was based off 2023. Is that correct?
That's right. So,
okay.
But in the 2022 audit, which is being done by a third party CPA that we use to do our, tax filing and annual audits, right, they've also identified for 2022, they've identified that these things were an issue at that point as well.
Okay. That's it for me for now. Thanks.
Sure. Any other questions or items? Any questions around the audit or the proposal?
It sounds like. Oh, go ahead.
Back here, sorry. So I just want to make sure. So we're looking at over the next 2 years, a $126,336 account, with $63,168 being this year, correct?
So it would be a total of $52.64 monthly.
Right.
I haven't done the calculation for just this year, Mac. I'd have to do it really quickly.
It's okay, but those are rough numbers. I think they're pretty accurate. But the question is, do we have that money to pay this year on our budget?
So we, for the bookkeeping services were already budgeted for. So the annual bookkeeping services were included in the budget. So that first $48,000 for just assuming the bookkeeping was already planned for. The second piece of the 48,100 is an additional cost that was not planned, but we do have the $16,000 tax credit that we are expecting back. We've already received the confirmation that it was we were charged in error and it should be refunded. And in addition, we have the money budgeted for the taxes this year that we should not need now that the IRS has reevaluated the property and corrected the tax assessment. So that'll be another 20,000. So that's $36,000 that's accounted for. So the remaining amount, the 12,000 is really sort of uncared for money. We don't have money sitting there for it or money that we can swap to use. But because we're amortizing over a 24-month period, that $12,000 is something that we can budget for in 2025.
Copy. Okay, yeah, that's good to hear, and that was my main concern. I don't think we have much choice, but that sounds great, and I really appreciate the rundown. Thanks, Rebecca.
Sure. Jason, I saw you came off mute.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you kind of outlined it already. It sounds like you've accounted for ways to pay for most of this. And like you said, we can budget to cover the shortfall in the future. So seems like, I agree, seems like something we need to do. And it seems like it's already taken care of. You already have a plan for taking care of it.
Nick, I saw you came off mute. Are there any questions that you have?
Yeah, Rebecca, my question is, do you have to commit tonight to the cleanup of the accounts? Not appreciating all the scope of what needs to be done. It's hard to opine on what we might be able to do here locally and what might be done by BAS. But if you have to commit tonight, then there's not much we can do. But I'd like to have the chance to take a look to see what this restructuring and reclassification of accounts constitutes, just so that maybe we can save part of that 48,000.
So I think it's a discussion for the board. I think one of the challenges that we're facing, Nick, is that we, being nominated as the treasurer at the end of November, we are basically running a business and it's a full-time job, which I am honestly struggling to keep up with. So it's really important that we get BAS to take over that day-to-day bookkeeping service because it is a substantial amount of time that is required to manage all of the accounts receivables, payables, and all of the tax implications, which are coming, in January. We're at the end of the year. There's lots of, tax filings and stuff that have to start being prepared. So the only challenge is BAS has to have the cleanup completed before they will take over the day-to-day operations. So it's a bit time sensitive from that perspective. I will leave it up to the board to discuss further how they want to do this internally. Managing it internally, the time consumption is a bit of a concern.
Yeah, and to that point, me coming from my primary job from the big four company of accounting enterprise companies, this audit's pretty important. And due to the fact that it's, I guess now would be considered a year or so behind on audit, it's pretty important to get that completed.
John, I got a question on that. This is setting us up to succeed in 2023 and going on into 2024. Right. I don't think this is helping us with our 2022 audit that's overdue.
Right. That's what I'm saying. For me, to me, I mean, just from a professional, I'm not taking my corporate into the personal, but this is a business per se, right?
Right.
So it's kind of unheard of from that aspect in my 15 years with the company. So
yeah, no, I agree, but I just want to clarify that what we're talking about today is to solve 2023's problem and prepare us for 2024.
Yep.
And then 2022 is on a separate audit that is going through a similar problem, but that's a separate issue completely.
Yeah,
Please correct me if I'm wrong there, Rebecca.
Yeah, you're right, Mac. The 2022, the audit at that for 2022 has gotten about as far as it can get. So we're working with the CPA and working through how we close out. There is documentation that from the transition from Associa that we just didn't receive. So there's there's stuff that's there that we just don't know what it's for because we don't have any documentation on it. So that's really where the problem is lying with the 2022 audit. And we're working with the CPA and a tax attorney to understand, what do we do at this point? So we will, as we get more information and guidance on how we move forward, we'll share that with all of the, board and the members.
yeah. Mohammed I mean, I deal more with technical audits. I mean, I'm involved with financial audits, but not as much. But I'm more on the technical aspect as far as what we say we do is in place, right? That's an audit, right? So was there anything that brought from a 22 perspective or 2022? Is there any violations or fines or anything like that that we need to be made aware of or concerns, or no, from the transfer of the previous associate, I guess you would say?
It's a good question. Mo, if you're available, I'll let you kind of answer to that. If there are any violations or issues they should be aware of from that standpoint.
When you say violations, are you talking specifically from like a tax perspective?
Financial implications or anything like that, like any fines, basically.
Okay, but the fines that you're referring to, like who would be assessing those fines? Are you talking about specifically for like the IRS or?
Yeah, I mean, wherever it's regarding from that year, right? That because you're gonna have the neighborhood saying, why are we being assessed fines or something? I'm just putting the worst case scenario out there and just making sure that's something that we as first newcomers to the board, but there was a previous board that ran this neighborhood. Is there like a, hey, like I don't know, from an HOA perspective, is there like a leeway kind of way that somebody else ran something, they're taking over and they're trying to clean things up, clean the act up and get more in straight line, right? So.
Yeah,
Hey, this is Mark, the president. I'll take this one. I got you.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
So we've had some discussions about this. We have, when you're talking about fines, like you have to identify the entity that's going to fine you, right? And what was the violation? In this case, we've had some late fees assessed for some late payments for some taxes, not incredibly significant numbers. But if you're talking about fines, like from a legal standpoint, there was no concern at this time that anyone did anything malignant or any malfeasance was evidenced. Yeah, that will result in fines. So that's not a concern at this point. It's really just to the point of using volunteer labor to fix some of these things. That to me, that's a non-starter. When you see I've thoroughly looked over the list of the audit findings from BAS, and even the condensed list shows you evidence of why this needs to be 100% handed to a professional organization to do that.
I agree.
So
you get what you pay for sometimes, and financial accounting is not something that should be done by volunteering.
Absolutely. So to that note, then, Rebecca, if you have any closing statements, I think we're ready to motion on this and accept your proposals. So if you want to make the motion, Rebecca, we can second it and we can vote on it.
Sure, Mark, thanks. As I had noted, my recommendation is to move forward with executing the proposal. We have a plan to be able to cover the cost. We have an assurance that we have a firm that can get us back into compliance within a few weeks, and that will help to eliminate and get eliminate our manual or in-house management, which is a time crunch and it is a concern. The longer that goes on, the more complicated it gets. So I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with the proposal and
sorry. I put my hand up in there. I don't know if anybody saw it.
I'm sorry, April, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Just, I was having problems getting to my mute button and I couldn't find it. So just a quick question. When initially this company was set up to do the audit for us, I'm assuming that the board looked at different opportunities or different options, and that they were chosen from a field of people, right? Their proposal was what was picked by the group at that time. Is that correct?
That's correct. There was
Okay.
3 companies to pick from at the time, and this was the one that the board selected to go with.
No, I just think it shows that, you know, from a funds perspective, that they've done some due diligence to find a quality firm with comparable pricing, so on and so forth. We're not looking at other folks at this point to compare costs to clean up, but that's already done in the previous board. So I just wanted to put that on the record that, you know, from this board's perspective, anybody who's new to the table, it was already taken care of.
That's right, April. Thank you
Sorry.
for calling that out. Okay, so just to summarize, the motion is to move forward with the proposal, get BAS, you know, ramped up and working on this as soon as possible, so that way we can get back into compliance and turn over that day-to-day bookkeeping to make sure that we have our tax compliance, we have our, you know, records compliance and our accounting compliance all in check.
I second.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any board members opposed, say nay. Nothing heard. Motion carries. BAS is hired at the amount of $5,264 monthly for a 2-year period. Next issue. Patty, what's the next issue we got on the agenda? Thank you, Rebecca, by the way, for all that
Great job.
extensive work.
Yes, thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you to the members of BAS for breaking down a very complicated issue to something that non-financial people can understand. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much for your support. BAS has been wonderful.
Thank
you.
The check scanner is the next item on the agenda.
What was that, Patty?
The check scanner is the next thing on the agenda.
Check scanner.
Rebecca, did you?
Oh, yes, sorry. And actually, Mo and Zoheb, if you can stay on for just a moment. So the check scanner that we talked about in the last board meeting, the anticipation was to, at that point, was to move forward with Truist's option to make sure that we can deposit or use a check scanner to do automatic deposits for all of the receivables coming into the office on a day-to-day basis. And this would eliminate the delay from receiving the check to the, you know, actual deposit date. It's immediate, so there's no risk of losing checks or, you know, getting them misplaced and that sort of thing. It will also be very important as we move to you know, bookkeeping services with BAS to make sure that we're, you know, depositing these things as they're getting processed so that it's much easier to reconcile on a month-to-month basis. If you remember at the last meeting, the motion passed that we would be able to purchase the check scanner and move forward with the check scanner, but it was raised by Patty just a little bit before, a day or so before the last board meeting, that BAS also had this capability. And so from the conversation with BAS, it is a similar functionality, but it would not automatically deposit at the bank. We would need to still, you know, take those checks to the bank, but it would, you know, allow us to, you know, automatically scan the checks and send it to BAS for processing. So, and if there's anything I misstated there, Zoheb, from a BAS perspective, feel free to correct me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea. And I agree with you, like, as far as the benefits of the check scanner, just kind of reducing processing times, making sure you guys, you know, aren't really losing checks and you're getting that deposited right away. And then really from, you know, the accounting standpoint, we would just need you to provide the deposit slips to us and we get that entered into the system right away for you.
So as a follow-on to the motion that was made and approved at the last board meeting, the recommendation is to move forward here with the Truist check scanner, which will go directly into the bank, and it still provides us the opportunity to send that information over to BAS for processing, but it just reduces the deposit, lead time, which is something that will make sure that we have the accounts. When we say we have the accounts in or the funds in the account in Appfolio, we know that they're deposited and actually there.
So what's the workflow for that? It goes from the office to where? Then to where?
So in the office, so we would have a check scanner in the office.
Right.
The checks as they come in would be scanned in. It would be a process in Appfolio, and there's a check scanner, a check scanner that processes today that Jennifer uses on a regular basis. So Jennifer processes those, and that gets entered into Appfolio. So that will continue to happen. The check scanner for Truist is an actual automatic deposit. It's like a mobile deposit, if you will. So you scan the check and it automatically deposits it right into the Truist bank account. So this will, right now, I have to take those checks in manually, create deposit slips and physically take them to the bank, so that it will eliminate that step, if that helps, John.
Hey, Tom, if you're on, I don't know, is everything being validated maybe from a security perspective? Because that's my field of, my specialty is cybersecurity, et cetera. So is everything, I don't know if he's on, but is everything cleared from that perspective or no? Do we know?
You're asking Tommy Krasinski, our IT guy, Tommy?
Yeah.
I don't think he's on.
That's okay. Okay. That's where I look as well, right? From validating that we're securely doing these transactions to through the check scanner.
It's a good question, John. And it's the same check scanner that the tellers use at the bank, is my understanding. They have a higher power one that can process a lot more, but the process is exactly the same. When you go to the bank and you hand them a check, they're scanning that in to the system. It's a very similar process.
I don't want to bore the board with security questions, but I'll leave it at that, because I'll get more in depth with all the protocols in place. But that's just my mindset. So that's where I look at things. All good. So
just to close the agenda item out here, does anyone, I guess the motion here is to move forward with the proposal discussed and approved at the last meeting, that we would purchase the check scanner within assuming that it's under $700, and we will move forward with the Truist check scanner.
This is Mark. I second the motion.
So
Okay, I'm a little confused. I apologize. So if we approved it, why do we need to reapprove it?
we don't.
Okay,
We may not need to reapprove it. I don't know what the rules are, Patty, so keep me in line. But I just wanted to make sure that we had an update to outline that, so that you knew that we did the research on the other end too.
sure. No, I'm great. So we're just doing what we approved last meeting.
Last month, yeah.
Rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
I think
Great
that's
point.
it for me,
Thank you.
Patty, right?
Yep, that was good. Okay, next we go to April. April, can you hear?
Hey, I can hear you. Sorry, trying to get some quiet. So I don't know if anybody's been tracking some of the correspondence back and forth, but I was able to reach out to the University of Florida's Extension Office here in Hillsborough County, excuse me, and they have specifically a HOA specialist that works with communities to identify issues with turf, other plants or organisms, or repeat problems, as well as help provide and identify solutions moving forward. They don't necessarily enact the solutions, but they help us validate how we move forward so that we do so in a way that actually resolves the problem, and hopefully as effective and efficient as possible. So I sent an email out that kind of goes over what that Extension Office's services are. They offer free webinars and such, but they also offer, like I said, kind of in-community service. The only other piece I think that we need is to kind of gathered together a timeline of the issues that we were having, pictures of those issues in the different areas, to help provide them a better guide by which to figure out what it is that we're actually experiencing. There's a couple different funguses that impact grass here in Florida, and so that they can provide the correct fungicide recommendation, they need to have a little more detail. And then the biggest thing is, you know, I would talk with him about the Roundup piece, and Roundup doesn't actually address the fungus issue. It's the fungus actually can lie dormant in the ground, in the soil itself. And so that you could completely do the Roundup, put the new sod on. It's dormant until the specific time of year when that fungus actually kind of activates and kicks back in, and you'll end up with the same problem every year at the same time. So it's really important, I think, to understand that Roundup doesn't solve the problem, that we really should have someone kind of take a look at the soil and better understand the issue before we move forward, because we could just be putting sod over soil that's going to cause the same issue and have to do this again a year from now or less. So unless anybody has questions about the information that was put out there, really all I'm trying to do now is piece together pictures of the different areas that we were having issues with, a timeline of when those are occurring, because different times of year have different types of fungus that are specific for those timeframes, so that our team can, at the extension office, can start to identify what's going on, or if they need to come out to do soil samples, so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's what I alluded to earlier in the conversation. My previous neighborhood, right, that we had a massive issue with multiple houses, and it wasn't a top layer. And I stated it was a subsoil issue where there wasn't sufficient nutrients, basically. So it requires a little bit further digging than just applying a treatment. It's going to require some samples, and that's what they ended up doing. And I'm not saying this is going to fix the problem, but what they, you know, for the broader of the meeting, they had to put in like 30 something French drains to keep fluid out from the soil, because it wasn't draining or anything like that. And it was related to the soil underneath the sod, because they didn't dig deep enough and put enough soil, top layer of soil on top of that to be to have the sod in place. That's what happens. You're not going to fix it. Like I said, you know, I said that Roundup's not going to do the job. But that's just from my previous experience. So hopefully, I mean, I don't know how many houses are affected. Do we have a count? Is it just the one problem?
I thought there was 3 different areas. Patty, is that correct?
Hold on, there we go. There were 2 homes in the Sagewood area. And it's been going on for a couple of years now.
And
So it's
there's been
centralized.
well, no, it's also been around the, I guess, the lake house as well, and then possibly,
Yeah, there were some common areas.
yeah, some other areas.
So in front of the lake house, it's now starting, it's taking off. We noticed it over the last probably 3 or 4 months. Right in front of the window. And literally from almost within a week, it all went brown. And it's in a circular pattern. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, and that's where I go with things, right? I mean, just from a nature perspective, when it rains, you can't avoid watering, right? Doesn't matter if it's day or night. So it's the matter of the soil. It's a matter of how it drains out. And if it's not draining properly, it's going to saturate and create mold or all the other fungus and stuff.
Yeah. There's also the types of grass, right? We might decide based on some of the recommendations that maybe specific areas across the community have approved to have different types of grass. There's a lot of different ways this can go. And the whole point of the extension office is to educate us exactly on what our problems are specific to the current issues, right? And how to best move forward. We'll have a couple of different kinds of courses of action. But also, I think systemically, all of our areas, right? Maybe they don't have problems yet, or maybe they're expensive to maintain. They can also kind of go through and help us identify, as they said, they do this for HOAs kind of across the Hillsborough County area, which is identifying Florida and efficiency friendly plants as well as grass types to accommodate the different environments that we have here and to make best use of shaded areas versus sunny areas versus not drain, soil that doesn't drain well by soil that's relatively dry. So they can kind of do a lot of that for us. They have tons of free resources on their webpage. If you go and look, a lot of this is already kind of covered in their webpage, but also some of the brochures that are attached to the email that I forwarded to you guys. I want to say it was Tuesday or Wednesday.
So I've worked with the extension office before. I think they're great. I think it's, the University of Florida, premier education institution, and they use science to do landscaping in Florida. It's great. So what specific proposals do we need here?
So at this point, we just want to, if we can give me a little additional time to make sure that we can get a recommendation from them prior to the landscape company that we have just rolling in, doing the roundup and putting down sod. Because that's kind of what's holding up right now, right? By having these folks come in and help us out, we're holding off on doing the roundup and resodding the places that are currently in need. I think that's going to require reaching out to the homeowners. So I'd like to get the homeowners who've been impacted by this, just to get them the information. And then we can talk about it as a board as to the way forward and how we want to engage them to make a decision, because it impacts them personally. But that's kind of what we're looking for here, is we're still going to pause on the last round of approvals for the landscape company. Does that make sense? Questions?
Yeah.
So this is
Yeah,
Mark. I think what I'd like to know is, does this organization charge us a fee, and how reactive are they? And as soon as we can set up some sort of educational session between us and them, and maybe invite our landscapers as well and have them give a presentation, or as soon as they can walk our grounds and take a look at the overall issues we have throughout our community. Because I see using this organization beyond these three houses. I think that we have, there's landscaping issues throughout the community, and this organization would be great to identify what exactly is causing the problems in various different areas. So, so I think the next step is find out how soon can they come out and take a look at our ground? How soon can they take soil samples? And is there a fee associated with that?
Also, I don't know in the individual cases, but have, from previous meetings last year or the year before, but has anybody from a homeowner perspective tried fungicide as opposed to Roundup? Does anybody know that?
I'm sorry, John, can you repeat that?
So from the previous, the homeowners that are having the issues, right? I see it throughout this neighborhood where I'm at in Sandpiper Crest, but we don't own that, so it's not on our side to treat and whatnot. I'm not complaining about it, but if the homeowners that do maintain their own lawn and stuff and such, have they tried fungicide as opposed to Roundup? Which is Roundup mostly, they may have more products, but Roundup's mostly for a weed killer versus treating mold and fungus.
They're totally different. Roundup kills anything green, and fungicide is specific just for the fungus. So if you want to wipe out every living thing, you put on Roundup.
I know.
But but it's not going to kill the fungus if it's underneath the surface.
Right.
So putting Roundup on and putting new sod down and spending $12,000 or $15,000 for grass that's going to die again seems like foolishness. If we just take a pause and figure out what the root of the problem is, then we can fix the problem once and forever.
Agreed.
The thing is, we need to make sure that the homeowners understand that this pause isn't blowing them off. This pause is making an educated and better attempt at fixing the problem for a long-term solution, instead of just going and spending $12,000 and then next year another $12,000. Nobody has the money for that. That's my opinion.
And I want to make sure everybody understands something as well, is that Roundup is still going to have to be used, because these yards are in bad shape and they have a lot of weeds and things growing through them. So Roundup is still going to have to be used. It's a mist. It's not saturating the soil as if like you're dumping buckets and buckets. it's very diligently used in accordance with Florida law on the use of Roundup. It's still going to have to be used. The only thing we would need to know then at that point is what other products are we going to have to use, if any, to handle this mold issue.
Yeah, I mean, I've already sent you a text. I'm against Roundup as a whole, but it's just my opinion because there's other products out there that can do the job. But you know, I'll move forward with that.
Something to consider though is that the extension office may be able to best alternatives to the Roundup. Sometimes tilling the soil deeper and getting that the roots and the stuff squared away can be also effective. So it really depends on, I think, what the extension office has to offer us. I'm sure they're not fans of Roundup either, but they'll let us know if it's necessary and needed. And I think they'll give us a full way forward as opposed to just a, hey, we think you should just, attack it with one thing in mind. I mean, this is their job. This is their passion. This is what they love to do. And they're here specifically to help us for the Florida issues. And I'm sure weeds are not necessarily a Fish Hawk West specific issue.
I feel like
Sounds great. All right, so next step is then to get them out there and get some soil samples. And I want to save some time at the end of this for community comments. So does anybody have any final comments on the fungus, mold, Roundup, sod issue before we move on to the next thing?
no.
Nope.
Thank you, Jason. Awesome. All right, Patty, what's next on the agenda here? It's the community comments, right? That's what's next.
That's right.
All right, let's go ahead and move to member comments or community comments then. The floor is open.
We don't have
As
any,
far as additional items, is that what you're saying, Mark?
no, we can't have.
Well,
any-
yeah, at the end of every meeting, we let the members of the community, it's their time to speak to the
Yeah, yeah.
board and say, this is what's on my mind.
If we don't have any. Nobody else is there?
All right. It doesn't seem like anybody, nobody's queued up.
Nope.
So then that should, unless any board members have any final issues to discuss, then we can motion to close.
Was that the
Jason,
motion?
motion to close.
I second it.
Motion close.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed. Thank you all so much. Rebecca, everybody else, thank you so much.
Have a
Thanks
great night,
all.
everybody.
Y'all have a good one.
Good
Have a
night,
good
all.
night.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Yeah, great work, April, too. Great work.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Be well.
Yeah.